Imagine getting a job in a New York high-rise only to discover everyone in the building wants to murder you. Luckily, Zazie Beetz has mad fighting skills and stains every floor with the blood of her enemies. Hopefully that's as fun as it sounds, so join us as we discuss They Will Kill You. Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
Word up.
This is a horror movie podcast. We get together to talk about a movie. It's that simple, and this week we're doing yet another new release in theaters. We'll get to that top 10 of 2025 soon, I promise. But we did check out They Will Kill You, which is a new film starring Zazie Beetz, and notably the trailer for this made it look very similar in premise to the Ready or Not movies. That was the funny thing, is that this was coming out a week after Ready or Not 2, and it has a female lead who seems to be kind of a badass, and a bunch of people try to like find her and kill her. I mean, they're not literally playing hide and seek, but I would argue that doesn't even matter that much in the actual Ready or Not movies. It's more of a technicality than anything else. But yeah, so yeah, we'll get into it.
There's also like another pretty big coincidence or similarity between the movies, but yeah, I save that for spoilers, I suppose. But when it happened in this one, I was like, really, we're doing this again?
Yeah, so yeah, just an interesting point of comparison there, especially since they came out like right back to back as well. But we'll start spoiler free, of course, as we always do. We'll give you warning before we get to the spoilers, and if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, hit the like button. It does help out a bunch if you do. And of course, you can support everything by going over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and get some bonuses, but I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. So yeah, premise of this is it's in a high rise. That's kind of the one big sort of like selling point, I guess, of just in terms of concept. I mean, there might be other things that are more positive or negative, of course, but on paper, it's a high rise building is the setting for this, and Zazie Beetz is trapped inside fighting for her life. And the trailer was very, which I only saw for the first time a couple of weeks ago, is very upbeat. It almost is, it's definitely viewing into that. We're going to try and have fun, and we're going to try and do wacky things, and there's horror elements, but it's not necessarily like a full-on like terror, we're trying to be creepy kind of thing. But yeah, I wouldn't really say much else about that, because the movie kind of reveals like there's like little flashbacks throughout that kind of set up why things are the way they are, and it reveals more as it goes on, so I don't want to spoil anything too much. But yeah, there's lots of big sequences of her fighting for her life with multiple characters trying to kill her and that kind of thing. But yeah, Joe, it's funny, Tim, last week when we were talking about Ready or Not 2, you said that you really like Catherine Newton, but she seems to be in a lot of mediocre to really bad movies. I actually think I feel that exact way about Zazie Beetz. I think she is really solid, and she's usually quite likable, but she's in a list of bad movies. I don't know if she's been in any actual good movies yet.
Yeah, I mean, I hate that this is always like my go-to with her, but she was in that like just really awful movie Slice, right?
Yes, yeah, like, she was in Slice.
Like I agree. Like I think she's I think she's great. She rules, but for some reason, like, yeah, whenever I think about her, like, that's always the first thing I think of, and it's like, that's just such a god-awful movie. I mean,
like, to add on some more to that, she's in the Joker movies, which are...
That's right.
Very bad.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Oh, no, she's in Bullet Train, which is actually kind of a fun movie, so fair enough.
Yeah, it's all right, yeah.
Fair enough, yeah, that's a solid little action movie. I'm not mad at it. Mm-hmm. But, I think Deadpool 2 is just kind of mediocre, and...
Oh, sure.
It was just, I had that comment from you was just reverberating in my head as I was thinking about how I felt about Zazie Beetz as I was starting this movie. And I'm like, I hope this is good. I hope this is a winner, because I think she deserves a winner.
For sure.
So we'll get into that in a second. We also have Patricia Arquette in here, who has been in things for years, of course, but most recently in Severance. I mean, to be honest, she feels like it could literally be that character from Severance, honestly, and you wouldn't miss a beat with the way the personality is similar between the two roles. And then elsewhere you got Tom Felton, who most people know as the bad kid from Harry Potter. I don't remember his name, but he's
Draco or something.
Oh, that's yeah, something like that. Yeah, that sounds kind of right. And then there's an actor I recognised. Paterson Joseph is in this now. I know him because he was on a show called Timeless about 6-7 years ago. It was a time travel show on ABC, I didn't recognize him at first though because he's got an American accent in this, and he had a very, very English accent in that show. I don't know which one's his real accent, which I guess credit to him. I couldn't tell, but yeah, he was here.
Do you know which character he played?
I mean, his character's name was Ray, but he was the Patricia Arquette's husband.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Right, yeah.
He definitely like looked and familiar, but I wasn't sure. Yeah, where exactly I knew him from.
Yeah, he's got tons of credit. He's one of those actors who's been in like an episode of like a million TV shows. So there's a good chance you've probably seen him in something at some point. So yeah, and then the director, Kirill Sokolov. Hadn't heard of him. Assuming it's a him. I actually don't know that Kirill could be anything.
Sure.
But yeah, don't recognize any of these previous movies. This is the third feature-length movie. There was a movie called Why Don't You Just Die, and then a movie called No Looking Back. Neither of which I think I've heard of, to be honest. Well, that's a setup for you then. We'll get into it. Tim, what did you think of They Will Kill You?
Yeah, it's kind of strange because I feel like on paper there are things that this movie's doing that like should make it my favorite movie. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of really like fun violence and over the top gore and like, you know, really cool, well done practical effects. There's not a ton of CGI, but when there is, it's like pretty dog shit. But the practical effects like I think look really good. And so there's like some really cool, fun stuff that's doing with that. But I don't know. I feel like maybe it's a bit choppy because then, I don't know, there's other instances where, I don't know, maybe I'm just not like vibing with the story or the characters as much. Yeah, there's like plenty of like fun fight scenes, and clearly the director has a style, but I don't know, at times it almost feels like maybe too stylized, like, you know, like maybe it sounds weird to say, but I feel like there are times where it's like, okay, we can probably like tone this down like a little bit. Like we don't always need, you know, like these dramatic shots and stuff. And it does feel very like I don't know. I would not be surprised if like Kill Bill or something was like a huge influence on this. Like a lot of times, like just the, you know, the way, which I mean, or if not Kill Bill, maybe like he's also inspired by like the same like martial arts movies that, you know, Tarantino was when he made Kill Bill or something. But that's what it reminded me a lot of. So like, I don't know, some of that stuff, while I guess it was kind of cool and I admired the thing they're going for, it did maybe feel like a little derivative of something like that, you know, maybe had seen before. But I mean, I'm not too negative on it. I wouldn't say it was like a slam dunk for me. Like, oh my God, I love this. But like, I definitely had fun with it. And yeah, it's very easy to compare it to like, you know, Ready or Not, you know, well, I guess you could probably do like either movie, but especially the second one, yeah, with it being like so close to it and stuff. And I would say I prefer it, you know, to that. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like I did have fun with it, but I wouldn't say it was like a completely even experience where I was just like constantly going like, oh hell yeah, like, you know, there are times where maybe, yeah, I don't know. I just wish that it was maybe a bit more even or something. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming out from it.
Yeah, I think it's actually kind of a shame that I don't love it more than I do, because there was definitely there was a few moments early on, right? The first like 20 minutes or so, maybe first half hour, where I was thinking, oh, this might be great. And there was like a couple of scenes that were kind of feeling like, oh, I might be really into the style of this movie. I might be really into the way it's like embracing kind of this cheesy attitude on its sleeve. That's what I did. I mixed up sleazy and cheesy. That's what I did. Because I was going to say sleeve. So I because when the first scene you get to see your fight, basically, right? I think is fantastic. I think it does a good job of not only just being kind of a cool scene, but also being like, oh no, we're kind of inspired by old samurai movies, but the way the blood's spraying out of like body parts, and we're going to do cheesy sort of poses where she's holding the sword this way, and we're going to, and the music I think is quite good throughout most of the movie. I think it adds a bit of personality to everything, which I liked. And you know, I think the setup at the start is mostly pretty good. However, I don't think it ever got as good as it was in that first fight scene ever again. For a couple of reasons. I think one, the story I don't think really fully like took advantage of everything it could have to be a more full-fledged. It felt like it needed a couple more drafts to really sort of iron down what we were doing. It felt like maybe even a little bit rushed in the back half in some ways, in certain things. Like early on, they kind of set up this idea that each floor of this building has a different theme, and I thought, oh, we're going to go through a bunch of different theme floors, and then we don't do that at all. We don't. We kind of just skip over a bunch of floors, and here's like, even when we do end up on a floor, we don't really get a sense of what the other themes are. It was like a one and done just explanation for one thing we see, and that is it. It wasn't like a setup for cool stuff later. I do think it has some fun with some weird or interesting like little visual things that it wants to do, which I mostly appreciate. I kind of see what you're saying though about maybe it being a bit over stylized. There's like the big fight scene sort of at the end of the second act, which I think is meant to be like, oh, this is an even better version of the first fight scene that we got. I think suffers a little bit from like, oh, we're going to do this big moment in like slow motion where we're going to have to make like the prop CG so we can do it perfectly, and it feels a little bit phony as a result compared to kind of the old school charm of the earlier fight scene that I thought worked, and it was a lot more endearing. So it's sort of thing where in that first half hour I thought, oh, this might be like a gem, and like and I think in the end, yeah, I think it's better than both Ready or Not movies, but I don't think it's the gaping chasm that I thought it was going to be based on that first 25 minutes. So by the end, it was like, oh, I still had a good time. It was still a fun, decent movie, and I appreciate like not holding back at certain ideas. But at the same time, I think I'm disappointed that I don't think I want to watch it again. Which early on I thought it was going to be a movie that I would want to revisit, and then by the end I was like, nah, it was a one and done. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a shame. And I don't know, I don't want to sound too negative, but yeah, I think like there's something to the fact that it does show a lot of promise, and then instead of like, yeah, just escalating throughout the movie, it kind of just hits like a plateau, which, just maybe makes it sound like a bit, maybe like we're being a bit rougher or tougher on it or something, but it is just coming from a place of like, oh, like, yeah, you kind of get excited because it is doing some cool things, and then, yeah, just ultimately doesn't really like live up to that possible potential. I mean, I agree. Like, I'm not mad that I saw it or anything. I had a fun time, but yeah, I don't know if it's like I'm in a rush to revisit it anytime soon. Like, like I didn't immediately go home and think, oh, I gotta like pre-order the 4K steelbook or whatever,
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing, is that like there was a glimmer of like, oh, this might be special for a little bit, and then it just kind of evened out afterwards in an unfortunate way. So it's like I like the personality of this movie a lot more than Ready or Not. But the actual end result is not like massively better. I think it's a little bit better overall, but it's not as massive as I think the glimmers as that I was sensing early on. Because I was like, oh, you're actually just saying this woman fights like a samurai, and we're going to like play with that like throughout. Is a fun idea, and there's a twist, kind of like early on that shakes up like how that's going to play out for the rest of the movie, and I was down with that twist. I thought, okay, that's interesting because it means we potentially get a lot more out of it. But yeah, just and I think it's not even necessarily a problem with the story itself. I think the actual story beats and like everything we learn about like what's going on in the building and all that can pretty much stay the same. It really just needed to have like the later fight scenes had to be even better than the first one and sort of play to the strengths of what that first one was, and be evenly paced out throughout the movie, and have a nice big climax where unfortunately the last very big fight at the end is the weakest one. It's the least interesting to watch and relies the most on CG stuff and things like that.
Yeah, the ending, it started out with some interesting stuff that I was digging, but then when it kind of gets to like the big fight scene that's happening, I was starting to get like a little checked out, and it was kind of like frustrating me because like I knew what she was going to do, but it felt like it took forever for them to get there. It's like, oh no, I think it's pretty obvious what's gonna happen, so like let's just like get to it, and then it just felt like it was kind of dragging, but yeah, we'll have plenty to say about that in the spoiler portion.
I think otherwise, like, Zazie Beetz is pretty solid here. She can lead a movie. She has the charisma to do that. That's great.
That it does make a big I think it does make like a big difference between some of the other like bad examples of her in movies that you've given before, which I wonder if it's a difference between like she's just playing kind of smaller roles in that, and like here she's like front and center. I mean, not that those movies were like bad anyway. Not like it would have changed if she was more of a focus or anything, but it was nice to see her having like a bigger role in this.
And in this setup, like what her character motivation is, and give her conflict, and like those things are there, and they're perfectly solid, for the most part. I mean, it gets a little wonky towards the end because it feels like they almost have to like tease things towards the end for drama's sake, but you kind of know exactly how it's going to play out once you reach a certain point, and it's just kind of like you said, like just get to it. Like we don't need to draw out the mystery or the suspense of like decisions that are going to be made when honestly that's not the strength of the movie, and they should have maybe focused a bit more on the strengths at that point. But I always enjoy a high rise movie, whether that's a horror movie or an action movie where you're trying to like survive in and around the building and all that stuff.
I mean the concept's good. Like you're kind of saying before, it does feel like they wasted a bit. Like when they bring up the idea that there's this one specific floor dedicated to something, and you're like, oh, there's a lot you can do with that. Then like you can have all these other floors like doing this or that, and then they can watch them having to make their way through them or whatever. But really doesn't end up going anywhere. And then I feel like it's kind of strange. Like we have these main kind of like villains, or like this kind of small group of people in the beginning. And then, I don't know, I thought it was kind of weird that it's like, sometimes it feels like there's just, like 4 or 5 people after her. And then sometimes it's like, oh no, we're going to get like the whole building involved. And I was kind of just like, okay, so like, are those people usually the ones that like do the sacrifices? Or is like everyone in this building involved? Like, I don't know. I thought that was like kind of strange.
I mean, it worked for like half the movie because they kind of explained. I mean, I don't know the answer to your question about is it always this like small group, or is it like did it rotate, did it take turns kind of thing, or what? But certainly there's a point where it's like, oh shit, like we have to bring everyone in here because this is getting out of hand. So everything that made up sense up until that point to me. After that, where it starts to feel like it's varying in size, it's a bit weird. But I get what you're saying, though. I get what you're saying. Like I said, I enjoyed the music. I think the music's there's a little bit of synth, a little bit of pulse here or there. It felt like it was a score from a slightly different era, which was working for me. And it wasn't just like, it felt like it wanted to have an atmosphere immediately, and it was using the music to try and do that. And it wasn't just your typical stuff, right? Because you could easily try and do the horror movie score that's a bit more. This was trying to be a little bit more like Cynthia Carpenter, as opposed to we're pretending we're Friday the 13th or something with harsh strings or whatever. Having said that, though, it does also, for some of the scenes, have songs. How you'll do a needle drop and you'll get like a song during a fight scene. I think it fits what the movie is to do that, even though it probably wouldn't be my choice. If I was the one making the decisions, I would have probably said, no, let's not play the punk song or whatever during this fight scene. I would have said, no, keep it to something that's a score, keep it to something that's in tone with the rest of the music. But I get the reason for that, but it does make it feel a bit more generic to me to have, some metal or punk song or whatever the various, at least one's a hip hop song. But
I mean, I don't remember the songs super clearly. They seem to be like me, I don't know, a bit more like maybe like some hip hop songs or something, or that kind of style, at least like from what I remember. But I mean, I thought it fit well enough. I didn't mind it. Like, yeah, it's not like something I needed or anything. Like, I'm sure would have been perfectly fine just having like a score instead. But I can't say that like took me out too much.
Yeah, it's just like a really sort of generic thing to do, especially when you're doing sort of a lighter fun movie, which this effectively is. But I mean, to be fair, at least, and this might just be my music knowledge lacking, but I didn't recognize any of the songs, so it didn't feel like, oh, I'm hearing, the Journey for the millionth time, or
right, yeah.
we're doing Holding Out for a Hero for this fight scene, because that's been done a bunch of times, ironically or non-ironically, depending on the case. So
yeah, it definitely wasn't stuff that was like overdone.
Yeah, so not too bad on that front. But otherwise, I think we probably do have to get into spoilers to keep talking about it. So we shall do so. But that is the spoiler-free section for They Will Kill You. So we will dive in now to the spoilers. So, it's a bunch of people in a cult who are making a sacrifice to their satanic demon friend so they can keep living forever. It's very Ready or Not, frankly, in a lot of ways. So
like that, I expected going in, like, from the trailer or whatever, that I don't know if I knew specifically that it would be another, like, a specific satanic angle, and that it would be something where it's like, oh no, they literally do have, it is actual, like, it's real. It's not just like something that they're doing, and they do get powers from it. So like there is magic involved and stuff. So that's all the same. Like the thing that got me is like, and it's a bit later in the movie, but once she's reunited with her sister and she's talking about like her abandoning her, I was like, oh come on, like this is like way too much Ready or Not.
To be fair though, like you could argue the first movie may have inspired some of the premise. You can't argue that they copied the sister thing from the second one, because they obviously made that like around the same time. So that's a coincidence, that one.
Yeah, like I don't fault them for it. Like it's not like, clearly the movie's not copying them or anything, because they were so close together. There's no way they could have. It's just funny, and like, and then it probably does. Again, not the movie's fault, but it probably does hurt it a little bit, like seeing it so close to Ready or Not 2, even though I like this more than Ready or Not 2, but maybe it would have been a bit better, like having some distance.
What's funny though, I actually think I might slightly disagree with that, just purely because I think by comparison, I probably was giving this a little bit more like credit because it's better. I'm like, oh, you're kind of showing them how it's done a little bit, and I was kind of like giving it a bit extra phrase in my head, but yeah.
And another thing stuck out to me, which again, not this one didn't seem like maybe as obvious, but it did remind me when she's running through the wall and they start like stabbing, trying to get her through it. I was like, oh, this is reminding me of like Scream 7 again, which again, not that they're copying, like, because that was another recent movie, they wouldn't have like had the time to see that or whatever, but I couldn't help to think about that.
Yeah, it's just funny that a couple of things like that are lining up. Also, I get the rich blonde lady who's like one of the killers. That was Heather Graham, apparently. I didn't recognize her.
Oh yeah, I don't think I clocked it right away, but I think I saw like her name in the credits or something. I was like, oh, that was her, huh? Especially because like she doesn't have a super big role. Like she's maybe has a slightly more screen time than maybe some of the other like cultists, but it's not like a huge thing.
It's recurring, throughout the movie at least. I mean, her and Tom Felton are the ones you remember the most. But
I mean, I guess the big thing is though is like she doesn't have a head for a lot, like probably half her time.
That is true, yes. Which is getting into the other thing is that these people keep resurrecting because of their pact with the devil. So there's this big thing where she kills them all, like in Zazie Beetz kills them all in like her big scene where she reveals I can fight, and then they all walk out the room and Tom Felton got decapitated and he puts his head back on and we see everything reattach and it's like, okay, so and to be fair, like that like turn of events didn't bother me. It kind of fit the tone that they kind of created once the fight happened, and I was like, okay, this means we get to see them die multiple times. It's the polar opposite of Ready or Not, where they don't get a proper death, most of them, except for just popping and like an effect. Whereas here, like, no, I'm going to get to see them get their limbs severed, their head severed, their head exploded with a shotgun at one point. And when her head does get exploded with a shotgun, you like see like a scalp with hair like lying next to Zazie Beetz, and I was like, oh, that's kind of awesome how gross this is. And I was into that element of it, especially since by this point it's not like I was sitting going, oh well, their deaths don't mean anything. I'm like, well, no, because they're still in pain and they're still suffering every time this happens, and you can kind of like enjoy the comedy of that they keep getting mad, that they keep getting killed in more and more horrific ways.
Yeah, like I think there's like one point when the characters is like, they're like, oh, like get back out there, and the character's like, no, but it hurts. And it's like, oh yeah, fair. Yeah, I mean, if anything, they probably could have played with it more. Like, I feel like, there's a little bit when, she first kind of discovers it, and then, probably Heather Graham's character gets, like, the most fun out of it, because, like, her head completely explodes, and then you see it, like, growing back, throughout the movie, and then probably one of the things that's the most fun for me, and there's a point where I was like, like, okay, if it keeps up this level, I might really, really like this movie, but just that little eyeball, like just rolling around.
Yeah, I like the eyeball. Like, yeah,
that was, and it looks great too. Like this is all practically done.
I think, I don't know, was it all practically done? I don't know if I.
Well, I mean, the eyeball.
That's what I mean.
I'm not saying the whole movie.
Yeah, but do you think the eyeball was all practical? I have to assume there was a little bit of CG helping that out occasionally.
I guess a little bit, but I mean, it looked. It didn't look CG to me.
That might just mean good CG, Tim, as opposed to no CG.
I question that because I thought there was some really bad CG in this movie. So I mean, maybe they spent more money on that, but
maybe. But I had to assume there was some CG with that, especially for some of the moves it was doing, and certainly when the eyes started like dilating and stuff like that. Like I was like, oh no, I feel like this is. So maybe there was some physical elements to it. Like I wouldn't be surprised at that, but no, I definitely think there was some CG at play there. But I think the first fight where they come for her, and I appreciated as well that before she starts fighting them, they do treat it like a horror movie for a few minutes, where it's like, oh, like they've shown her a room and there's someone watching her from the vents, and we get the creepy shot looking through there, and we get the creepy big guy come in and like drill all over her and lick her feet, and it's really like nasty. And then when she goes to hide in the closet, and like there's like 5 of them in there now, all with their overalls and their pig masks, they open the thing, and it turns out she came with weapons. And one of the big reveals is that she came here intentionally because she believes her sisters came to work here. And we'll get to the backstory later, but like, no, she came here ready to fight and pulls out her sword, and it does all those sort of shots where she's got the sword like over her face like a samurai, and she cuts off a head and it sprays blood like an old samurai movie, and I'm like, you know what, I can get into this. This is doing some cheesy stuff, but it's very earnest, and it's very there's fun bits sprinkled through all this fight scene where she chops a dude's foot off, and then when he's lying there, she sort of slams the blade into his mouth to sort of do the final killing blow, and then just various things like that sprinkled all the way throughout this scene.
Like, everything's very exaggerated, but in a very fun way. Like, she shoots a guy with a shotgun, and he doesn't like kneel over. He goes like flying, into like the bathroom. Like, there's a lot of fun stuff like that. I agree. When I'm watching that, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I can definitely like vibe with what this movie's doing.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they did it this way, but you can almost feel like the Wire work of like, oh no, someone has to go flying when they get hit. So, I mean, there was the start of it though, because they all think she's passed out. And I wasn't entirely sure what she did. It was like she sort of, I don't know, like licked like an electrical cable or something, but it kind of jolted.
Whoa. Yeah, because the guy like started to chloroform her, and then she had enough like strength to fight back, but then it was starting to take effect to her, and then I wasn't quite sure exactly what happened, but I mean, before we did see her like pull the lamp out of the socket, but then it looks like. I guess maybe like right before she passed out, she was able to like electrocute herself awake, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I was like, what the hell just happened there? But once
it was like tough to follow. Yeah.
Yeah, but once the fight starts, it's there's a lot of like dodging, and you enjoy seeing the villains kind of like trying to like fight her but fail and get stabbed or whatever the case is. And yeah, she ends up taking them all down. She gets sprayed in blood. It's a whole thing. And it's like, okay, this sets us up for the movie. She goes outside, and Patricia Arquette, who seems to run the building, like claps and says, that was unexpected. But, like, you're the sacrifice tonight, deal with it. And all the villains come walking out the room and reanimate and, like, reattach all their parts. And it's like, yeah, we can't die. So, like, and I was like, okay, that's interesting, because you just showed me that she's a total badass. And that these people have no chance in hell against her in a fair fight. But now you're telling me they've got this really unfair advantage where they'll just keep coming back, and our main character can't, right? So she dies. So it's like, okay, there's your stakes. That's what makes her vulnerable, even though she's got all these fighting skills, is that if she messes up just once, if she fails to dodge one fatal blow, which they kind of hinder a little bit, though, because they then tell us quite quickly that they need her alive for the sacrifice, that the sacrifice has to happen like in a proper dedicated room later. So it's like, oh, so they're not actually trying to kill her at any point, technically. And that I think that did take a little bit of juice out of the actual, like, them attacking her scenes.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But she goes running and hiding, and like the one ally she has in the building is Ray, played by Paterson Joseph, who is one of these people. He has got this immortality, but he's kind of been feeling guilty about it and thinks that they've been killing innocent people for too long. So he's helping her, and there's kind of a stylized like set of sequences where they're crawling through the vents, and we get these kind of like wide shots, but there's black on either side, and then like climbing up the vent and then crawling, and this is when. Because she encounters Heller Graham in the vents, and they struggle, they fight, and she shotgun blasts her to the head at point blank range, which makes her head just explode, and then you see like bits of her hair just sticking there and all that. But the eyeball remains and starts crawling on its own and spying on them, and I'm like, oh, this is really fun. It's like, I think the fight to the end of the vent sequence with all the eyeball stuff is kind of where I was at my peak. Like, oh, I'm really into this. This is really solid. It's doing exciting stuff, it's being creative, and there's still some creative stuff later, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm kind of into the actual living pig's head at the end, if I'm honest. I thought that was bold to just go that far with it, so I respect it.
I liked it until it attached itself to
I know, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I like the pig head like standing there talking and laughing and stuff. I was into that, and then once it became like the head on a body, as give Patricia Arquette like super fighting powers. It was just kind of like, this is just kind of goofy now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me, that was kind of the golden part of the movie, and like, you know, everything.
I agree.
You know, in that section, I was really into, and you know, that's when they set up as well, because they're crawling like over rooms, and they're on the orgy floor, the F floor as they call it, and it's like, oh, okay, so each room's dedicated to a different vice, because if you're immortal, you get kind of bored and you want to do all these things. And I was like, oh, what could the other floors be that we're going to go through? And I started thinking in my head, oh, what if there's I don't know, like I mean, I assume a gambling floor at the very least, but maybe, you know, is there like I don't know, like what evil things would rich people want to do aside from sex? Like, I'm sure there's other things, but apparently they couldn't think of anything either, because we don't see any of them. But I was thinking, oh, we're going to go through a bunch of, because when they come out of the vents, they land in like a room that's on this floor, and it's like it's like a kinky bedroom with like straps and a sex swing and stuff. I was like, oh, just think of the backgrounds we're going to have. Like, we're going to know we're on a different floor, because in the background it's going to be a bunch of, I don't know, candy or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and even that floor, you know, they didn't really do much with. Like, I was expecting at some point they're gonna run through an orgy and like a bunch of naked people, you know, will start attacking them, or like something like you know, there's fun stuff that you know you could have done with it. But I mean, again, maybe just like a weird nitpick or whatever. But it did just feel weird to me that like, oh, that like everyone in this building, like, you know, like all these floors are just filled with people, I guess, that are under this pact or whatever. But then for so long, it just kind of feels like we're just sticking with these main, like, whatever, 4 or 5 people.
Well, they're too busy having the orgy, Tim, to help.
I mean, true. Yeah. I mean, not like a big deal, but just like something that kind of like stuck with me. But yeah, it's weird, because I agree that all that stuff, like up until that point, I guess probably like up until, I guess, she gets reunited with the sister, is when maybe it starts to go a bit downhill. But I mean, it's not like I start hating the movie at that point. I guess it's just like,
no, not at all.
You know, you just, I don't know, kind of hit a little plateau or something.
Because I don't think you realize in that moment that this is the kind of the pivot point. I think because there's nothing wrong with the sister character, and there was nothing wrong with this idea that the sisters kind of made the pact, and she's, you know, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, that's going to be a focus for the rest of the movies, just learning that, you know, because, and also this idea that, you know, she's not happy to see the main character. You know, Zazie Beetz' character's Asia, and the sister's called Maria. She's not happy to see her. She's like, you abandoned me, and you know, that's the backstory here. The opening scene of the movie was them when they were younger, 10 years ago. Presumably when Zazie Beetz was maybe like 19 or 20, and her sister was like 12 or something like that. And you know, they're running from an abusive father, and Zazie Beetz ends up shooting the father. And when the police show up, she runs away, leaving her sister kind of behind in a sort of a moment. And she's been in prison, and she's kind of like been, you know, so she got out, she's looking for her sister, and she's found out she was sent here. So she's like, oh, she might already be dead because of what these sick assholes are doing. So either I'm going to find her and save her, or I'm going to just go scorched earth and kill everyone in this building. But that's the motivation. So when the sister's kind of like, well, they offered me, because it turns out that, well, they hire people as housekeepers to sacrifice them. Sometimes if they like them for whatever reason, they'll say, hey, how about you become a permanent staff member and you can be immortal with us? And that's what they'd offered the sister, because there is like housekeeping staff here who are all part of the pact, who all want to help kill her. So it's not like they're all the innocent ones by any stretch. And
in her case, it was a little bit of a like fortunate circumstances, I guess, because someone else was caught stealing. So I guess they're like, all right, well, she's off the pact. You know, and then so yeah, it gave her room, you know, to not be a sacrifice or whatever.
Yeah.
But, again, this is like a minor thing, but like something that just kind of bothered me. I don't know if anyone else noticed or cared or whatever, but with the opening, you know, scene, I thought it was weird that like the whole scene, I mean, you know, they're outside and then they're inside the, you know, this like little convenience store, and then they're back outside and stuff. And it's just like there's just this tons and tons of like pouring rain, like just beating down on them, which is fine, whatever. Like, but then once it gets out of that opening scene, it cuts to like 10 years later, and it's just like Zazie Beetz' character again. She's like outside, and it's still like the same like torrential pouring rain, and I don't know, it just like seemed weird to me that like I don't know, the way the scenes were together, it made it seem like, oh, does it just never stop raining here? Like, I thought it was like a weird choice to like have this very visual signifier of like this very heavy rain in your flashback, and then cut to 10 years later, and it's like, oh, it's still raining like that.
I mean, I guess it didn't really stick out to me. I think what they're going for is like, oh, this is a stormy night, just like that one where she lost her sister, kind of thing. It never occurred to me that anyone would think, oh, this implies it never stops raining.
Yeah. I'm not saying like I literally thought that. It just the way they're like strung together, like it just, I don't know, it just made it seem like that to me. And then I guess the reason you could do that is because then, when the movie ends and it's like, dawn and the rain stopped, I guess it could be like, oh, like things are clearing up now or whatever. Like I understand the significance of it, but it just, I don't know, for some reason it just like was weird to me.
Like, Zazie Beetz has had a storm in her head ever since she abandoned her sister, and she's felt guilty about it, and it's not until she saved her sister the storm will finally subside. That's
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Storytelling.
It works.
101. Yeah. I think maybe one of the little problems as well after this point is that it feels like a couple of one-on-one fight scenes they have, like with the big guy that comes after her and stuff. It feels like all of a sudden Asia isn't as amazing a fighter as she was initially. Now I get that she's a bit more injured now. I get that she's had like a wound in her hand and whatever else. But it kind of feels like we're not like, it feels more like a typical horror movie for a minute where she's like sort of struggling to get away from him and whatnot. And I'm like, nah, she was like a samurai. Like the last scene we saw her fight, so that maybe felt a little inconsistent to me.
Yeah, like I thought it was kind of weird when they're like trying to escape him. They're like climbing up the ladder in the elevator shaft, and at one point she, they're trying to use a gun, but then they run out of bullets and it stops working and stuff. So she kind of just throws the gun down at him, but just kind of like dropping it on him. But then like earlier in the movie, she like chucks the gun at someone like so hard, and to me, it was just like...
Actually, just to bring that moment up, because we didn't mention in that first fight scene, it's Heather Graham like tries to fire the gun, it doesn't work, so she tries to throw it at Zazie Beetz. Zazie Beetz just catches it and then throws it right back at her face. So it's a really funny moment. Yeah. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, no, like that was a great scene, but it's weird to me. Like, so it's like, okay, so, and yeah, like you're saying, she's injured at that point, so I guess we can, maybe chalk it up to that or something. But it was like, oh yeah, in that scene, like you're able to throw the gun with such force that like, yeah, it knocks someone back, and then here you kind of just like drop it on this, guy that, in a way that does nothing. So just again, a minor thing, but it's like just little stuff like that kind of feels like, oh, maybe it's slightly inconsistent. But
yeah,
I don't know if it's just like hard because like she starts off as such a badass that it's like kind of tough to like go from there,
Like, don't get me wrong, like I can see like you putting her in a position where you can buy why she's more vulnerable than she was early on, and that can feel like a big deal because like you almost feel worse that she is so capable, but she's put in a position now where she is fighting for her life and doesn't feel confident anymore. Like that can really work. And then the other big fight scene that comes soon after is once they've enlisted everyone like to get involved. There's a whole sequence where she goes into it's like a ballroom and whatever floor she's on, but the lights are all off, right? So she can't see anything. And she goes out the door to the hall, and there's like people there, so she backs into the ballroom. And the whole gimmick here is that she's got an axe and she like wraps a rag around it and sets it on fire. And I like this scene's so frustrating to me because it's a 10 out of 10 idea with like a 6 out of 10 execution, and like I can only just imagine the 10 out of 10 execution version of this scene which is that the scene is almost pitch black except for the fire on her axe, but as she's like stabbing different bad guys, they get set on fire, so the scene gradually lights up more and more. Like 10 out of 10 idea. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
But it just, unfortunately, the choreography and the way it's staged and the way they come at her like so quickly just doesn't feel like it milks the tension like it could have done.
Yeah, I feel like it starts off kind of strong, and then I don't know. I feel like it kind of fizzles out, and then by the end, when it's like
the big slow-mo shot,
motion,
where she's like kicked a table at him, and it this, so the person shoots the table, so it splits in half, and then she like comes in slow motion down with the axe over her head. Like, I get like the ultra comic booky cinematic thing you were going for, but it's almost too perfect, and it's like contrived like setup that it just feels a little bit iffy to me.
Yeah, I think like too perfect is maybe a good way to explain it, because like on paper this should be like the coolest, most badass shit you're gonna see, but then I don't know, maybe if it seems like a bit more CGI or something, or
I'm sure the table was in the CG and in the slow-mo shot for sure. Well, that's the thing, and I almost think like how much better would this have been if it just wasn't CG? See if she just like kicked the table at him so that it would block the shotgun blast, and then she just jumped in and axed them quickly. Would that have just not been like really cool and a visceral little like, oh shit, that was so smart? She like got around the shotgun and axed them to death. But instead, we've got 20 seconds of like her coming down slowly through the table, with the war cry look on her face, and it's just like it's a bit, it's just too, it's like you went over a line a little bit, I guess.
It is like a little tough to articulate like some of the stuff that doesn't work, because again, like so much of it seems like this should be the coolest shit ever, but like you're saying, maybe like a bit too perfect or a bit too try hard or something that maybe if it just restrained, and it's not like it has to completely change stuff, it's just like maybe just dial it down just a smidge or just restrain it a little bit, like you were saying, it might be more visceral and
a little restraint in the right places, I think would have went, because one of the complaints we had with Ready or Not, right, particularly the first one, but it kind of continued at the second one, is that they really want to like show the main characters becoming this badass, right, and that's a fine thing to want to do, but it always came across as a little bit try hard, to use that phrase again. And I think what's frustrating about this is that the opening scene with her just establish her as a badass right away, and it feels very stylized, it feels kind of cheesy, but it doesn't feel try hard. It feels like, no, this movie wants to be like you said, the Kill Bill, like badass Beatrice, like, will pose with the sword and like, say I'm coming for you and do the action movie hero stuff, and it works. So it's just a shame that later on it feels more try hard, because it's almost, instead of trying to top itself but with mechanical, like, in fact, actually that's the frustrating thing about this scene, is that it starts off with a mechanic. It's like, no, it's in the dark, and the axe with the fire is going to gradually light up the enemies, and therefore we're going to see more and more of it. But we also want to get to see enemies like coming out of the darkness at her from almost nowhere. Like, mechanically, you're escalating things, you're doing a gimmick here that makes it different from the earlier scenes, but as it goes on, it almost shoots itself in the foot by going too far with over-stylized elements when it could have just honed in a little bit, or kept it simpler at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I guess it's kind of a compliment that, it's like, well, there's a lot of good ideas here, and there's like a lot of good intention. It's just maybe not always fully realized, which, is better than something that just completely misses the mark or is very generic or bland or whatever. Like, you definitely can't say that, about the movie. No,
it has a personality. I just feel that the director's sensibilities go a little bit off aligned with me at certain points, and that's kind of we're getting here. Because they end up skipping a bunch of floors. They climb up an elevator shaft, and they get past a lot of stuff. The villains actually find them in the elevator shaft, and they do a thing here where, like, once they get up to this door, up to this floor, and like all the bad guys are waiting, she's like, wait, I think you need me alive for this ritual, so you let my sister go or I'm going to jump down that elevator shaft. And I'm like, oh, that's an interesting like thing to threaten them with. Like, if that's the one currency I have, if the one thing I can threaten is to take myself off the sacrifice table by taking myself out of the equation, I thought that was an interesting thing to do. And they did an okay job setting up that the one bad guy was already in the shaft climbing the ladder, so when he catches her, it didn't feel out of nowhere. I was like, yeah, that's fair. He was chasing them up the ladder. We knew he was there. That's perfectly fine. Once they get into the sacrifice room, though, and we get the pig's head, and the pig's head starts talking, and all the names of the people who are immortal are written on the pig's head. From here, it's kind of like, we spend a bit of time talking to the pig head, and we kind of build up a little bit, and it's like, hey, this is the sister Maria. This is her night to make her first kill. To become a part of the pact, you have to do a kill to begin with. So kill your sister. Write your name on the pig's head and kill your sister to sort of seal the deal. And
before that too, we see that because they also caught Ray, who is like a traitor to them now.
Yes,
and
yes.
So they erase his name and have to sacrifice him.
Yes, Patricia Arquette's told to kill him, and she asked not to a couple times, but then goes through with it anyway. Which, it's good because it sells her as being a villain, a proper villain. But you can see where this is going, though. As soon as they say go and write your name in the pig's head, it's like she's going to write her sister's name, isn't she? And the sister, Maria, chooses to kill herself. And then is like, well, that's a death technically, and her name's on there, so now Asia is also immortal, and her wounds all start to heal.
But it seems like a little iffy to me. Like I feel like other movies, like the Satanic Creature or the Pact or whatever, seems to be like the rules are very strict and stuff. Like this pighead seems to be playing it pretty loose because
well, here's the thing. See at this point, I get the complaint. This is a little bit wishy-washy. Like, I mean, it's not really sacrificing someone else. Does it really fulfill the whole sacrifice thing? But I was willing to roll with it at this point. However, later on, when Asia just adds a letter and changes the name to Maria to bring her sister back to life, I was like, this feels like we're just thinking of get out clauses that feel just don't feel like they would work. And I know it seems weird saying that because we're talking about the satanic pact with a pig's head. Like, how can you say any of this is but more realistic or not? But it just feels like a little too easy to kind of trick the system and do whatever you want.
Yeah. Which it might not be as much of a complaint if again everything had just been hitting it out of the park 10 out of 10, but since we're already at a point in the movie where maybe again starting to see that not everything is as cool as you want it to be or should be, it's just another thing that kind of stands out. And then like I was kind of saying before, it was starting to frustrate me a little bit because once you realize that all you have to do is erase their name off of this pig's head and then they can die for real, I was like, okay, well, that's clearly what's going to happen with, the rest of these people. She's going to erase their names and then finally get to kill them. And it just feels like it took so long for I'm sure she already came to the conclusion, but it seems like it took forever for her to actually do that. Yeah.
And the biggest sin, honestly, is that her fighting and actually getting to kill all these people is the least exciting fight of the movie. It's all the good ideas have already happened, so it's just not that fun a fight. So that kind of sucks. The one thing I did like about it though, which is why it annoyed me when Patricia Arquette put the pig head on her head and it kind of fused with her body and made a super pig hybrid fighter, is that up until that point it felt like the pig's head was laughing at her killing all of his cult members. He was having a great time. He was like, death, this is great. They're all dying. I love this. He thought it was hilarious, and I thought that was an interesting character bit for the demonic pig head. I was like, oh, this is kind of funny that he's super into this. He almost respects her hustle. He's like, oh, Asia, I respect your game. You're killing people left and right. We're good. Yeah. We're on good terms, you and me. I was almost into that idea, and then it's Patricia Arquette's help me, master, and then it's okay, now it's going to be a thing where so. Also, Another little weird detail that seemingly works perfectly is that Asia, before she starts fighting everyone, cuts her like name, like the skin of the pig's head. She cuts around her name and puts it in her pocket so no one can erase it. And I'm like, it's still valid even though she's detached it from the pig's head?
Yeah.
That was a gamble. Because I would have thought that would have made it null and void because you've removed it, technically.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's like there's a lot of stuff where it doesn't feel like these are fully established, like ironclad rules of how this thing works. It's like the movie is just kind of showing it to you real quick to be like, okay, like don't think too hard about it, but here's what's going on. So
it's almost like I could have maybe rolled with this if she discovered it. Like, let's say like somehow the name gets cut off, but she realizes, oh, I'm still immortal. It's like, okay, that's the movie telling you that somehow this still works. But the fact that she assumes that it's going to work that way, and then it does, it just feels really weird and like contrived to me.
Yeah, it's and again, it's kind of strange because, you know, I do like, you know, weird, over the top, very bombastic stuff, and yeah, like Patricia Arquette with this like satanic pig attached to her head, like crawling around on the floor, is like, it is a crazy kind of bullshit that I feel like I should like more, but just weirdly, I don't know, I feel like doesn't work. It's kind of strange.
I think it's because at this point it feels like, because the sister's dead right now at this point in the movie, and yeah, obviously she brings her back by like changing the name on the skin, and she wakes up outside when they get her outside. At this point, it kind of feels like all we're really fighting for is revenge, and it, you know, I don't know if we were that invested, and because this fight scene is mostly a little underwhelming versus the earlier fight scenes. I think if this was like a banger fight scene and then the pig's head came on as kind of the final boss, if you will, I think that would have felt a lot better. Especially if they'd done the thing where we had some different themed floors. It may have felt like we were getting to a final boss in a video game where they kept getting more. Like, what if on the sex floor there was like a, because they run past like a dominatrix at one point who's got like a guy in a gimp suit. What if they actually like what if she had to fight like some big dominatrix looking person on the sex floor,
right, yeah.
And then in another floor she had to fight someone who was like, I don't know, like a sleazy like mob boss looking dude in the gambling floor or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's like very video gamey. Like, you know, you want more bosses instead of just like, you know, there's just a lot of, you know, people in cloaks and masks and stuff that end up just kind of blurring together.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is the funny stuff with Heather Graham's head growing back in. She's got this tiny little head, and she's giving middle fingers when she's like that, and that's amusing. And you know, I was fine with that as a running gag.
Sure.
So we should probably mention the structure a little bit, because every so often it'll do a thing where it's like, oh, we're going to reveal some backstory now, and it'll give you a title card, and it's like, so once we find out that Asia came here intentionally, it's like, okay, the plan, and it's like, here's like her talking to a PI of trying to find where her sister is, and her taking the identity of this woman who was meant to come work here so she can get inside. Later on, it does it with the sister, and we find out that she was in like a shitty situation working at a motel with the boss like perving on her and all that. So she ended up at this place. And it does this like maybe 4 or 5 times throughout the movie, and they're not super long, but it's like a quick boom, here's a quick couple of flashbacks to explain the backstory for this new reveal. And I thought that was fine. It felt like it was well paced, so I didn't have too many of a problem with it.
Yeah, I didn't. I guess I didn't like hate it. I don't know if I necessarily like loved it or anything. Again, it kind of felt maybe like a little derivative of like, to me, where like, I can't think of specific examples, but like we've seen this like thing done in other movies, you know.
I mean, yeah, maybe there's like more closer ones, but you obviously were compared it to Kill Bill a little bit here or there, and Kill Bill had the chapter titles that came up, and it felt like they were kind of maybe aping on that a little bit here.
Yeah, which I don't know, maybe it's unfair because like, I mean, Tarantino himself like, basically steals or homages things like that from other movies, so like there's nothing wrong with doing something like that or being inspired. But
and to be fair, like I think the Tarantino comparisons or the Kill Bill comparisons, I wasn't thinking it maybe as early as you were. I think I was thinking it more when she was like doing the poses with the sword and the camera was like sort of tracking up to her and spinning around her. That felt very Kill Bill. When she started just like lopping heads off and it was spraying blood, I was just thinking the same thing that Tarantino was inspired by. I was thinking of old samurai movies directly, but like I think there is a fair comparison there of directly some Kill Bill-esque stuff though at different points.
Yeah, and it's like I totally get that, and again, like I don't want to say like it doesn't feel like this movie is a ripoff or anything. Like I'm sure there's probably like inspiration from those things, but I don't know if it ever fully like gets over it, to kind of become its own thing. Like again, like I mean, Kill Bill is just like the easiest example, but like even though he's very directly like doing these like homages to like various like samurai like martial arts stuff and whatever, like Kill Bill still feels like its own thing. And I don't want to say that like the whole movie like feels derivative or anything, because it's not. Like it there's a lot of times where it feels like its own thing, but like there were times where maybe I could feel like its influences on its sleeve like a bit too much, but again, not in like a way where I'm like like, oh, screw this movie, it's it's just like copying things. Like I'm not trying to say that or anything, but it's just it maybe never like got over to a point where it's like like changing itself to be something completely new and unique or whatever.
It also would have been nice at one point they tease a prison fight scene in her flashbacks, and it looked like a fun fight scene from like the 2 seconds we got, and I'm like, I kind of want to see her just fist fight like a whole like gang of women like in a prison shower room, because that looked like it was fun, but they would cut away from it after like 2 seconds, and I'm like, you know what, you could have given me a little bit of an exciting fight sequence here to like but different, because it's not like the mass people with murder weapons. It's more just like hard knuckles kind of like survival sort of stuff. But I think it could have been fun, but I did like the kind of comedic beat of like she asked her like, oh, like where'd you learn to fight? And she's like, prison, and it's just like such a quick little like flashback. Like it did kind of make me chuckle. Yeah, like everyone who goes to prison comes out like John Wick, able to like take on a horde of people. I mean, I think that stuff is, I think the little flashbacks are completely fine. Any issues I had with them as the movie went on was more just about, oh, we're really leaning into this whole the sister made a pact and is supposed to be the one to kill you tonight kind of thing. But maybe another little thing that would have been nice as well, is that this goes along with the idea of we weren't getting a sense of different floors or anything, is that while obviously it's mentioned of how do we get out of here, oh, well, everything's like locked down like tight and all the windows are shatterproof and blah, 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 blah. It did feel like there should have been maybe more attempts to try and solve the problem of getting out. In fact, at one point, Ray even says, like, oh, the only way out maybe is like from a fire escape that's on like the 9th floor. And I was like, oh, okay, so that'll be something we try and do later. And I feel like they never actually try and go there. I mean, they're kind of like working their way up, I guess, to go there, but like we never see it. It never becomes a factor where they try to get out that way. It's almost just not something we're thinking about for most of the movies. How do we get outside? It's just at the very end, when she's already killed everyone, she picks up Patricia Arquette's key card, and that's what lets them get out the front door at the end. I would have liked to feel that sense of we're looking for solutions to the problem, even if they end up turning out to be dead ends. Like, oh, let's try this. Oh, that won't work. Let's try this. Oh, that didn't work. Maybe this could work. Like, I never really felt like they were trying new things like that. Yeah,
no, for sure. Because it never. It feels like, I don't know, the building maybe should have felt like, I know it's always like the go-to cheesy joke, like when you're like being pretentious about a movie, or say like, oh, like the city's a character or something, but like I do feel like maybe like the building could have probably had like a bit more personality or something, the way they're talking about it.
Yeah, because in the opening they kind of talk about it like, oh, the Virgil's got this history, and it was almost like we're talking about it the same way that in Ghostbusters they talk about that apartment building, like like, oh, maybe there's some lore about who built it and why it's like this conduit for a demonic entity and all that, and maybe that could have been more of a thing that you were feeling throughout the movie, because it feels like after the intro where they kind of set it up, it just kind of like, oh, we just kind of forget about that because we're doing all the fight stuff. Maybe there was just a better balance to sort of try and keep some of that personality sprinkled in throughout. But yeah, I think ultimately my main problem, for all the little things we can nitpick or talk about, it's really just a case of constantly presenting new challenges that the hero looks smart at overcoming or badass at overcoming, and it kind of felt like it ran out of steam and all the good ideas were used up early on. So anyway, the end of the movie, they come out the front door, the sister wakes up, the PI that was in her flashback is there to pick her up, and yeah, they ride off into the well, not the sunset, the sunrise technically because it's morning, but and that's it. That's the end of the movie.
Yeah, and I mean, you already mentioned it, but like, yeah, the sister's dead at that point, but then yeah, she ends up waking up because she had changed the name on the little flap of skin, and I mean, I guess maybe they'll just plan on like erasing it later or whatever. But like, my first thought was like, okay, cool, but like, she has to like commit sacrifices still, right? Since like her name is on there. Like,
well, I don't know if she, because they never really go into that, and it seems like when they take the other guy's name off, when they take Ray's name off the peg, it's not like he instantly dies because he's been alive for 150 years.
Yeah.
He's just mortal now, so he can be killed, which suggests that no, all they have to do is wipe it off and she's like, normal again, and that's it.
Which is like, I mean, which is fine, solution for the movie or whatever. They've already established that, but again, it just makes me think like, oh yeah, this is like a really easygoing like demonic pact. Like usually it's like, like, oh, these are ironclad, there's no way out of it unless like you do some heinous thing or whatever, and it's like, yeah, as long as you erase it, you're fine. The
only thing is that there has to be like a death like right after you do it, right? And technically Patricia Arquette's death counted for changing the name, as how they sell it to us. So because part of me was like, can you just erase the name and write down whoever you want to keep saving people's lives, but you have to kill someone to like seal the deal every time, which is like, okay, fine, but maybe for a case of emergency, keep this little bit of skin hanging around so you can write on it and like get super immortality if need be. I don't know, but it's still a perfectly okay movie, right? It's right, like, yeah, at its best though, it's like pretty damn good, and then it kind of just never lives up to the promise of the pretty damn good parts early on, and it's such a shame because it's like, I can see the cult classic, the weird like Dread meets like, I guess Ready or Not, but like that's effectively what it's trying to be, and I could see the fun in that. Meets a samurai movie, I guess, because that's how she acts throughout. But as it is, it's like, okay, this is one of these movies where like the concepts were there, but the script just wasn't there to get it over that line to be in this like cult classic where we're all raving about it. I think it'll find an audience. I think some people are going to be quite fond of it, but it's not one that I think is going to be entering into that like, oh, every top 10 hidden gems from the 2020s. They will kill you as one of them. No, it's perfectly fine by the end.
Yeah, it's again, I find it very interesting. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of movies like that ultimately, yeah, I'd put this probably in like the okay or fine territory, but usually if a movie's like that, it's kind of like, oh yeah, the whole movie is just like okay or whatever. It has like such like peaks and valleys where it's like, oh no, there's like legitimate parts of it that are great. It's just that it's brought down by other things that never really get bad, but they just kind of sink to that, oh, this is more just like okay kind of territory, and then ultimately, I feel like it kind of evens out instead of like, really, just like ending on like a huge high note or something, which, it's a shame. I mean, I take it over like a lot of, more like average or generic movies or whatever. So that's, I mean, like, in terms of like some of the like crap we've watched on this show, like, it's probably better than a fair deal of stuff we've seen, but it's unfortunate that it doesn't like kind of rise above it a bit.
Yeah. So it's weird because obviously the tone here is like, oh, we're a little bit disappointed, but it's only because because it's not like I was expecting much going in. It actually made me expect things itself in the movie, and then failed by the end to deliver on them. And that's the shame here, is that it won me over and then lost it, and that's that feels bad.
Yeah, like I honestly I wasn't really planning on seeing this. Like I saw the trailer super late. Like I literally might have just seen the trailer like during Ready or Not 2 last week. Like, but I'd heard about the movie, but I'd never seen the trailer. And then I think I kept seeing like a commercial for it that was like, this movie's so crazy, like we can't even show you anything. And I was like, all right, cool, but that doesn't make me excited because I'm not seeing anything. But yeah, it was seeing the trailer last week that kind of made me be like, oh, actually, this looks kind of cool. It might be worth checking out. And then, but with that being said, like I didn't really have much expectations going into it. I was like, all right, well, the trailer's cool, but I don't really know, much else about it. It could go either way, and I didn't really hear many people talking about it this weekend. So yeah, like you were saying, like it starts off in a way that's like, oh, this could be really good, and then unfortunately it doesn't really end there.
All right, well, I think it's just time to rate it then. Tim, what are you giving They Will Kill You out of 10?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's tough because, yeah, there are parts of it that, like, I would probably give, like, an 8.5 to. But yeah, then there are other parts that are, maybe more like 6.5 or so. Yeah, so like ultimately you kind of gotta combine them together. I'm not gonna go like super low, but I'm trying to debate if like 6.5 is too low, or if I want to go with like a straight 7, which like a 7 would be like, it's good but not great. I'm trying to decide though, like if enough of the stuff that maybe brought it down, if it's just like a little bit below good and maybe more just like, yeah, like okay. Yeah, it's tough. I think I might give it might be a little harsh, but I think maybe I'll give it like a 6.5 now, but I don't know. Maybe once a bit more of the initial disappointment wears off, maybe I can put it slightly higher, but I think that's where I'm landing for now.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go a 7 or above, because I think saying good to me after this, I thought during portions early on, there's I'm going to at least say this is good, if not great, by the end, and then it was disappointing after that. So I think for me 6.5 is the ceiling here, and I could just go a straight 6 maybe overall, because ultimately it is a bit of a bummer, even though there's things to like in here, and I still say it's decent. I still say, like, yeah, it's worth watching. Maybe not going to the cinema to see it, but like you can put this on and it can be like a movie at home, and you won't have a terrible time by any stretch. So I'm just going to go with a straight 6. And I wish it was more. I wish I was more passionate about it, because there was moments early on where I really thought I was going to be. So that's it. That's They Will Kill You. Now, next time on the show, for like the third time, I'm going to say the same movie, which is Shelby Oaks, because we've recorded that already, but we keep pushing it back because we've got all this all these new releases like popping up and whatnot. But yeah, Shelby Oaks is going to be next, no doubt about it. There's nothing else that will squeeze in here, so look forward to that next week on Screams After Midnight. But otherwise, you can of course support Screams After Midnight over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You can get some bonuses for doing so, like the bonus episodes. We've got a new one coming out soon for a movie called The Visitor from 1979, but that's like episode 65 or 66 of the bonuses, so there's a whole host of weird and lesser known movies in there. Plus, we do even more streams most weeks where we do like a top 5 or do talk about a news thing in the horror world or whatever it is. But yeah, that is that. So thanks to everyone who already does support us. It's greatly appreciated, and it does help keep the show coming, as well as all the other shows that we do on Male Fuzz Movies, like the Atomic Cinema Experiment and Collector's Cut. So thank you very much. But that is the show, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, and we will see you next time.